But I was just thinking to myself, what is it that makes people who are interracially dating want to procreate and seriously date someone whose family is absolutely racist towards them? Like, I know that relationships are complex. I know that relationships, come with their hardship. But there really is something said about a certain type of person who wants to date someone and willingly walk into a situation with a family who does not like you for who you are and just who does not like you, period. Like, that is a lot to be putting on the line. Like, this family is racist and you know this. What makes a person stay? I don't believe that it's love. Y'all not going to tell me that it's love, because I get it. I really do. But there's got to be something driving you. And maybe that's just their unique purpose, if I'm being compassionate. Maybe people feel as though they are put here on this earth. And maybe some people are put here on this earth to really obstruct racial barriers. But I just think to be like dating someone and they come out and be like, yeah, my dad is racist. They did not like you. They don't like black people. They don't like black men. They don't like black women. And you stick around. And like, I have that compassion because, like I said, maybe that's just y'all purpose. But I really do think there's something said about people who want to come and try to share these stories from a place of victimhood. Like, I don't know if you guys know this or not, like, because I know we're kind of like in this multicultural, like, perfecto kind of like pseudo world, you know what I mean? Like, very much breeding utopia and dystopia as we are entering into the realm of the Lulu. You know what I mean? At very high personal rates for personal satisfaction. But I don't know if you guys know this or not, but most people have a very negative complex in regards to black people, right? Like, racism wasn't something that just kind of took place in America, and it wasn't like, no, it's like worldwide. Why black people are intentionally destroyed through misrepresentation in the media. The list goes on. So when you guys go and rate and date interracially, and you want to try to come back and be like, oh, but like I tried to be friends with a white woman and like she just was like so da, 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 da. We don't care. And that's not to say that all white people are racist. It's not to say that all Korean people or immigrants are racist towards black people. Come on now. We're bigger than that, right? Like, everyone here, for the most part, we're all pretty intellectual. We have that awareness. We know that not everybody is racist towards black people. But when you guys go out here with this very naive, kind of like you are believing in a lot of these mass movements that really try to shove inclusivity down our throats, really just for paid propaganda and like really good marketing tactics, right? These marketing strategists, these agencies that really push this narrative for capital, for consumerism. I'm gonna need you guys to stop coming to us and crying wolf when you went barking up the wrong tree. Okay, you know what I mean? Like, you can't go to the wolf's house and then be crying when you get bit. Like, we're tired. I don't want to hear no more about it. And furthermore, I really want to know what makes a person, because I know that everyone has their relational issues. We all have our relational struggles. But the way y'all be so quick to leave someone who has like a little bit of trauma, who's working through that, like, y'all don't want to do that like emotional work. Like, come on, let's talk about it. Nobody wants to do the emotional work in 2023 in regards to relationships. But the way y'all will jump on y'all will really sit and be in relationships with people who are literally racist, whose families are literally racist. Why would you do that to your kids? Like, you can't tell me this is love, because I'm thinking like that's such a selfish act. That's such a selfish act. Like, you're going to willingly bring your kids into this when the grandparents hate them? How are you going to explain that? Like, why are y'all going through these hurdles? And I'm not saying that this goes for everybody across the board. I feel like I have to really kind of get in here because we have to, have nuance for people who are just sensitive and naive, right? It's not even a matter of like nuance because people are new. No, it's really just because people are naive. So we have to like interject, like, you know what I mean? We have to interject the nuances, not for misunderstanding, but because people are just naive. But I really want to know, like, what makes you guys choose that battle? You know what I mean? Like, I think I would much rather work towards some type of spiritual growth, some type of like emotional growth, some type of psychological development in terms of like personal development, right? Like, I'm not talking about obviously someone who, even still, right? Versus working through racial barriers and racism and this very long battle of injustice. I don't think I would want to bring that into my relationship. So I really want to know, what makes people do that? Why do y'all do that? And like, there are some people who get it, and like, you don't have to, you know what I mean? I'm sure there are some people who get it, who are in interracial relationships with partners who get it, and they see the, you know what I mean? The demoralization of Black people and the dehumanization of Black people. But I'm just going to end with this. I just genuinely want to know, what is it that makes people really kind of sit in this space and they're just like, you know what, I'm going to willfully walk into this situation, and this is going to be my lifelong battle in my relationship. And I would love to find some type of website that can authenticate statistics around relationships and their longevity who choose this as the battle. You know what I mean? How does that work out? Because you know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like one person is going to be inferior, right? Like, somebody in the relationship is willing to give up a whole lot that is really their identity, you know what I mean, so to speak, to really be in a relationship. And you can't tell me that that is love. I think one thing that I've always kind of said too, and I really believe this, I think that this is a commonality, especially in regards to Black men interracially dating. I'm not really sure in regards to Black women. I still to this day have a different a whole different opinion in regards to that. But I really feel like it's so important that we teach little Black boys, how to value themselves. It's important that we teach them that they deserve respect and love and kindness. You know what I mean? It's important that we teach them that they are not alone in the world, right? That they are understood, that they are seen, that they are not criminals, right? It's important that we really work to deconstruct and reprogram their minds from the narratives that exclaim that they are criminals, right? It's important that we really try to steer them clear away from the prison pipeline, you know what I mean, through education, and most importantly through empowerment, because I think that this is what you have. And I think the most unfortunate thing, this ambulance, you know what, God bless them. I'm going to have a moment of peace. I'm not even going to say anything ridiculous. But I think it's so important that we really sit and take the time to like pour into young Black boys. I think it's important that we sit and take the time to, you know, empower them, because we know for a fact that like domestic violence and all of these different things, Black male suffering, it's not that nobody cares, but it's not something that is addressed. It's not something that's talked about. And I just think that too often, because of the low self-esteem that persists within young Black males and just Black men in general, being in relationships like this is suffering. And I think they sign up for this erasure of identity and this erasure and this, you know, this foregoing of joy and love and happiness, you know what I mean? Because they don't think that they're worthy of it. And I think in all the same ways in which women have these very complex issues, right, with our self-esteem and things that we have to overcome, I think men have to somewhat overcome those as well. And I think it's in a different way, right? It may not be the same methodology. It may not even be the same terminology. I'm not really sure how we would do that, but I do think that there's really something said about it, because what has been evident to me is this prevalence of dehumanization of Black men being in these relationships, in these interracial relationships, and them being completely disregarded and disrespected, and like, you know what I mean, them being treated in ways that is inhumane, to be honest. I mean, I don't really know what would make a person decide to stay with someone, and this person is like, yeah, my family is a racist. You know what I mean? My family doesn't like you. My family don't, and it's not because my family don't like you because you're not a good man. It's because my family don't like you because you're Black. Whoa. We've got to seriously really kind of unravel what this is here, because I know for a fact there are so many Black men who are suffering. And I also think too, obviously we're going to create boundaries with this conversation, right? At this point, everybody is an adult. This is not an attack on interracial dating. Quite frankly, we don't care, right? You know what I mean? But I do think that there's a lot of Black men and Black people in general who enter into these relationships, and it's not based on love. It's not based on mutuality and respect for one another, right? There's no genuineness in the relationship, but it's really predicated on nothing. It's predicated on beliefs about ourselves that are no different than any other relationship, right? It's like being in a toxic or abusive relationship because you don't have the self-esteem, right? So it's not, we can really well, not in this case, but like, you know what I mean? If you take away the factor of race, because I know a lot of people want to do that when we have these conversations, a lot of people want to, imply that race is and da 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 da. But if let's say we take that factor away, what we still have here is abuse, right? And I think that that's probably one of the most destructive forms of abuse, because it's like, well, wait a second. You know what I mean? This is who I am as a person. And I've always said this, not everything is ghetto. You have to understand that a lot of the Black customs that are in our community and that are just within us innately, right? Like how we season our food or whatever the case may be, everything that is Black, you have to realize that you have a very negative attitude towards it. Right. I remember when conversations about soul food came up, and there was a lot of critique in regards to soul food. And I wasn't here to ignore the medical concerns, right, and things like that. But one thing that was very clear to me was that you can go into a restaurant today and get a salad, but if the people in the back aren't wearing gloves and the carrot's been sitting out all night and there's rats in the back, and you know what I mean? But and the plates are dirty, right? If you lift your plate up, you got stains and dried lettuce on the back of that plate. You know what I mean? Which one is more healthier? A meal that's made with love, care, nurturing, where the chicken is rinsed, and you know what I mean? And yeah, maybe it was fried, but like, which one do you think will be better for your soul? You know what I mean? We know that food has a very interesting way of, like, you know what I mean? Like biologically, physiology developing, not developing, but nurturing us. So it's like, if something is made with love, with the purest and highest intention, I would think that that would be a little bit more healthy than something that's made in the kitchen that appears to be healthy, that is merely vegetables, but the vegetables have been touched all over and tossed all over. And the guy who came in last night didn't wash his hands, and he hasn't bathed, and he's touched his steering wheel, or he's got on the bus, public transportation, he's been on his cell phone, and he just gets right to it, and he's making your salad. Do you see what I'm saying? So it was like, what really are we saying when we talk about soul food? And are we really addressing this from an educational standpoint? Are we really addressing this from a cultural awareness, or matter of fact, a cultural appreciation, right? Or are we just simply digesting and taking in what everybody else is saying in regards to soul food and Black people, and how this is just one of the conversations that persist in regards to Blackness and why it's wrong, or why, you know what I mean? So I think it's so important that we really stop and like take a moment to just kind of like digest what people are saying and what are the conversations persisting around Black culture, because there are just some things that Black people do, and that's okay. Like, Black women like bonnets. It's convenient, right? Granted, okay, you may not wear that bonnet out in public. You understand, okay, this is something that exists within my household. But if you were to marry someone who sees that as something that's ghetto and undesirable, how dehumanizing is that? Do you see what I'm saying? A bonnet is a way for Black women to care for their hair, right? Black women have different textures. We already know that. We don't even need to get, you know what I mean? It's very evident. So I just think it's very important that we are mindful of the conversations that we have. And I think it's important that you get with someone who understands you, and more so seeks to, and more so has a deep appreciation rather than, anything outside of that. You know what I mean? Like, someone who genuinely appreciates what it is to be a Black person and who understands that. And honestly, if you can find that, then do you. You know what I mean? But I do think we need to talk about this lack of self-love and this lack of, self-esteem that persists, and how a lot of people end up in these relationships interracially and they're abused, right?